Good morning, cardiologist here. Today I want to make a video in order to show how we can repair the door lock actuator. There's been a lot of talk on the internet about the so-called bouncing door lock problem. That's a fairly well-known problem on the W211 Mercedes, and I have that problem. Now here's the thing. Most of the time this problem seems to be caused by a broken spring, and there are companies that will sell you the springs. The problem is that when I opened up my car, I found that the spring was actually not broken. That means that my bouncing door locks are from something other than the spring. So I went ahead and got a new door lock actuator. Today I'd like to show you how to take apart the whole door, take out the door lock actuator, put it back together, and get the car done. So the problem here is the so-called bouncing door locks. Now of course my wife likes to refer to them as the machine gun door locks. Let me show you what the problem is. I press the lock and it bounces. Unlock is fine. One more time. Press the lock and it bounces. So as it turns out, when you look in the internet, you find that the majority of the reasons that this happens is because of a bad spring. Most people say this is just purely a bad spring, so I did what anybody would do. I went online and I bought a new spring from one of these companies. I got a beautiful kit with nice new stainless steel springs. I took this whole door apart, and by the way, it was really hard, and that's why I'm making this video. I got the door lock actuator, I opened it up, and lo and behold, the spring was perfectly good. Well, I was there already and I bought a new spring, so I said to myself I may as well replace it. I put in the new spring, I put the whole thing together, I put the whole door lock together, and not surprisingly, I still have my machine gun door locks. So this shows you something that I don't think has really been reported on the internet so far. That the bouncing door locks can be caused by something other than the spring. Now I'm sure if I really delved into this I could find the specific cause of it. But I've decided that the best way to handle the problem is to buy a new door lock actuator and to install it. I was able to get a really top quality official Mercedes Benz brand new door lock actuator at a pretty good discount by carefully shopping online. It was mailed right to my house. And I'm going to go through the process of taking a whole door apart, removing the actuator, and replacing it. It's a complicated, tedious process, and I want to show you. Alright, so let's open the door. Here's our door. Right over here is the door actuator, and the door lock actuator is deep within the car. In order to get at it, we're going to have to remove a lot of things. Let me first show you the first section. If you can come over here, Mr. Cameraman, this first piece of plastic, which in my case is cracked, but don't worry, I have a replacement for it, comes off. Again, this is going to be garbage. I have a brand new one. This just dried out, it's cracked, it's a mess. Alright, so that's going to go. And underneath, you're going to see right here, there is a screw. And we're going to put a torx screwdriver right in, you see where my finger is? Yeah. No. Oh. Here, let's come back here for just a moment, Mr. Cameraman. That's my finger, and we're going to put in a torx screwdriver right here to remove that screw. So the first thing we're going to do is take a torx screwdriver, and we're going to remove this screw. This screw is deep in there, it's easy to not see, but it obviously has to come out. They can be a little bit fiddly. You don't really want to drop it in there, but if you do, it's not the end of the world because we're going to be removing the entire door panel. There's our first screw, we'll put that down. So next, we're going to take off this top speaker. This is the tweeter, and that comes off carefully. All this is made of plastic, so you just want to be kind of gentle. There we go. Now, This is just a piece of foam for soundproofing. Good. So you could unplug this from here. I don't really want to. It's not coming out all that easily, and I see no reason to. I'm just going to drape it over. It'll hang. It'll be fine. The next thing that I want to do is come over here to this white part, and this plug does need to be removed. It needs to be unplugged like this, and that should be sufficient. Okay, so we're doing very well so far. The next step is going to be to come over here, Mr. Cameraman, and there is a panel right in here which comes out. And that goes in, and underneath you're going to find, if you come up here please, you're going to find two screws. These are torx screws again. We're going to remove these two torx screws. So once again, I'm going to take my torx screwdriver and we're going to be removing these two screws. One. And two. Great. Next, we're going to unscrew the cap from the locking mechanism, like this. Next, we're going to have to take off this torx screw and this piece of plastic covering the lock mechanism. I'm using a smaller torx screwdriver here, and out that comes. Okay, next you want to take a door puller tool, kind of like this, even better if it was plastic. And what we need to do is get behind, without scratching the paint, and just pry out the plastic clips very carefully, the ones that hold this unit in place. Take your time, go slowly all the way around. There's no rush. Clearly we don't want to break anything. We make our way all the way around the bottom, like this. Now, this whole door panel is only being held on by the top. Okay, so now the door panel is essentially free, but it's hanging just on the rim up here. So all I need to do is lift it up off of that rim, which is not particularly simple. It may be easier if I put the window down. Again, in this business, you never force anything. So I'm going to put the window down and then we'll try that again. Okay, so I have put the window down, which I think might make things a bit easier. At least I'm hoping so. And the idea is to take this and just come straight up, because it hangs in like that. Alright, so we got it off. Now, I'm going to tilt this back so that you can see. Now there's a variety of wires here. Okay, go slowly, Mr. Cameraman. This wire that I'm holding is very, very delicate. It's also very, very expensive. Don't break it. It is a ribbon cable, and that would be a very expensive disaster that nobody wants to do. So we have to very, very carefully take that off. Alright, so I'm on this ribbon cable connector. We come in and you take this tang, press it down, and the ribbon connector comes out. That's the most important one. It's the most delicate one. We're also going to take out the others. Here's this blue one. You press the tang down, that comes out. Here's this one. You press the tang down, that comes out. Okay? The others don't really need to come out. Now here is one which goes to the main speaker on the stereo. In this case, we press the tangs and pull up. This unit is almost free. Mr. Cameraman, can you show over here, this is the cable that will hook the door panel to the lock actuator. You want to take the cable, pull it out like this, and there is a hook, and the hook comes off. And now, if you look at me, the whole door is free. I'm going to put this carefully in the trunk for safekeeping. So having successfully removed the door panel, and thankfully without breaking anything, we can now see what goes on here. This is some soundproofing, and it's hooked on with some sticky stuff. So what you have to do is gently pull this back, and it really is like a sticky tar. You want to just go slowly, you don't want to rip it. Alright? Now once we get it back, I want to carefully get it over that door lock. I also want to get this cable right through it, and we peel it back like this. Alright? Okay, before we continue, I want to get that window up. I don't want to break the glass or scratch the glass. I put in the key, and up goes the window. Beautiful. With the window up, we can continue. So, you'll notice here that there are rivets that hold on the various metal pieces to the door. Now, this metal piece is a track for the window. This track is riveted from the factory. In order to do this job, you have to drill the rivets out. Now, you will notice that mine does not have rivets anymore. The reason it doesn't have rivets is because when I originally took this out, I had to drill the rivets out. And when you're done, you put in little M5 bolts. Now that my M5 bolts are in, I'm going to be removing them. 1, 2, and 3. That's going to allow me to have some play in this track, which in turn will give me enough room to take out the door lock actuator. Alright, so I got a wrench on the nut behind, and now I can finally get some purchase here. And we're just going to do this for all 3 and take off these nuts. Okay, next we're going to press in this and take out this electrical plug. This electric plug. Cameraman, if you come over to my side, please. This plug pulls through. Okay. And we're going to remove these fittings from the car. They're a little finicky. I might want to use a pliers to remove them, but they all have to come out. Alright, so it turns out that to get these out, you really need to get something behind it, press in, and then it comes out like that. I want to take all of these out. It's just slowly. Again, you want to get a little screwdriver in, press in, and then those guys come out. I have one more, if you want to show right over here and maybe zoom in on this. I take this screwdriver in here, press in. It's hard because something is in the way there, but we're going to press in and then the top part comes out. It's just finicky. Next, we're going to take out 3 metal colored torx screws. 1, 2, and 3. These hold the lock actuator in place. Watch as we take them out. Okay. Nice. That's one. This one was kind of tight, so I'm just putting in a T30 here. There you go. Just needed a little leverage. It really shouldn't have to be all that tight. And then the third one, right up here. Good. So now the door lock actuator is going to be loose. Alright, so this turns out to be important. There is a white shield back here. This white shield has something to do with water protection from the door. And this door lock actuator sits in front of that shield. Now, getting this actuator out is really difficult. It requires just a bunch of manipulation. It's very tedious. It takes time. You just have to slowly work it down. There are going to be times when you say to yourself, there's no way this thing can fit back there. The answer is, it can. You just have to take your time. Alright, so I've worked it loose. You see it coming here? Now you understand why we had to take this metal bar and push it back. It would never fit otherwise. And this is now your door lock actuator. This is our great trophy. Take a look. One door lock actuator. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and get our new one and put that back in. Alright, so I have here an official Mercedes Benz door lock actuator. Part number A211-720-0835. As you can see, it's official Mercedes Benz. I bought it from a company that was not Mercedes Benz, but clearly they have shipped me a brand new official Mercedes Benz actuator. And this is it. So we're very happy with this, and we're going to go ahead and get this installed. Alright, so one of the first things that I'm seeing with this brand new part is that it's slightly different than the old part. Well, that's never terribly comforting. So the first thing I do is I double check my numbers. Here's the number on this one, 211-720-08 or 0635 or 0635. This is 0835. The difference is that this has an extra wire. Now what I assume is that this has to do with a different feature that the car could come equipped with but doesn't. So to make a long story short, this is not going to get hooked up. This probably has something to do with keyless go or some such thing. But there's no need for it. I'm just going to hook it up with the connectors that I do have plugs for, and then we'll see how everything works. Now I have found this to clearly be the hardest part. Again, it just requires a lot of patience and manipulation. That's all. But we have to get this thing into the door, up and around, and it really isn't easy. So we're just going to very, very slowly and carefully try to get it in. Good. Alright, so you can see that we're in, and now we just have to slowly get it up and again in front of this white thing. Alright, so with a lot of manipulation, I was finally able to get this thing all the way up here. This is the extra plug that I'm probably not going to use. I'm just going to leave that there. That did surprise me. And then these wires are going to have to be rethreaded and hooked up. I think the first thing we'll do is put the screws back in to secure this in place. Alright, so you'll see these three screws that came out are a little bit different. I've got two that have a small head, and I've got one that has a big round head. The one with the big round head goes here. That's the first thing that we're going to hook back in. This secures the door lock actuator. You screw that back in. Now come over to the side here, and we're going to screw in these two to get this door lock actuator into the correct position. That's number 2. And now number 3. And we should be well on our way to having a fully restored door lock. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and thread this wire We're going to put it right through the slit, back out the other side, and we saw that this gets plugged in right over there. Okay. Okay, we're going to take these wire holders, put the wires through here, and mount these wires. So, originally, it was only holding one wire. With this new setup, for some reason it holds two, but there's no reason it can't do that. And that just plugs in. We're going to do all four. Okay, here's the fourth one. Good. Now I'll adjust the slack so that nothing's bunched up. And we should be in very good shape with that. Good. Okay, the next step is going to be to re-secure this metal piece. And remember, this metal piece normally was riveted, and in most cases you will have to have first drilled the rivets out, and then you're going to need to put in M5 bolts. Alright, so now we have successfully gotten back on these 5mm bolts. 1, 2, and 3. It's very tedious to get on these. Again, they were originally riveted. You want to put on M5s. They have to be very short because if they're any longer, they'll stick out and they'll interfere with how the window goes up and down. The next thing that I'm going to want to do is to make sure that my window still goes up and down without any trouble. Okay, I went ahead and put back that soundproofing. I fished the cable through it. Now we're going to make sure that the window still goes down since I had been messing with the track. And there goes the window. No trouble. And the window back up.
Phone 1 ready.
Without any trouble. I'm going to leave it in the down position so I can put back the door panel. So far so good. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is to get this hooked up actually on the cable. We'll put the cable on. It's a little tough to put that cable on. We get the hook in and draw that through. Okay, but what I realize is that before I put this on, I have to actually secure all of those wires. So we're going to go ahead and secure those wires. Okay, so we are going to plug these things back in. Very nice. Alright, this one can be plugged in once the door is on. Now, I have to very carefully hang this door from the top, just like I did before, except I kind of didn't realize that I had to put the wires on first, which makes sense if you stop to think about it. Alright, so now that that's threaded in, we just hang that from the top, and now it's hanging. Great. Okay, so now we have to guide these white clips back in place. Not always all that easy. But it's good when you hear that snap. Alright, that was a little bit tedious, just to hold everything in place while also filming, but to make a long story short, we got it. We hung the weight from the top and then lined up and snapped in the connectors from the bottom. Cameraman, if you come over to my left-hand side, there's now still going to be one wire that I have to fish out from here, this guy, that has to get hooked back up. This involves the speaker. And we'll put this back in. There, that's in. Now we can put in the soundproofing. I guess that prevents nasty vibration. We can put this back on. These just snap on, or so they say. Yeah, there it goes. Good. Alright, so far so good. Now it's time to put on some screws. You guys remember that there were 3 screws. We're going to put these 2 on. Without dropping them. Good. There's 1. Good. Here comes number 2. Okay, cameraman, come up here to the left, please. And then you'll remember right here is screw number 3. Really good. Now I bought a new part that's going to go in over here. We'll put that on in just a moment. Right now, let's get this panel. Remember this panel? This goes back on and snaps in place. Okay, and you'll remember this guy on the lock actuator comes on, and this goes back in place. Good. We're going to take the door knob, the door lock knob, and we're going to screw this back on. Huh. Well, we're going to try to screw that back on. Alright, so I finally got this back on. Like I said, it was kind of tedious, kind of difficult. After I got that back on, I made sure that everything was on and tight. I put on this panel, and then cameraman, if you come over here, you'll see, you remember I had this old cracked panel. I had bought a new one. The plastic just dried out and was cracked. I got a nice new panel for this, and now it looks good. So let's now demonstrate what the car looks like when we want to lock the doors. So let's go unlock. You want to watch that? So that's unlock, that's lock, and that's unlock. No more bouncing. Unlock, lock, and unlock. So I'm really happy. I tested all the switches. They work once I put the engine on like this. So this all works. I tested the seat switches. They still work. So
Phone 1 ready.
We are done. Now, I will make a few final notes here. When I first put this back on and I tried the lock, it didn't work. And I said, what the heck is going on? I checked the connections. They were okay. I checked the fuses. They were okay. It turns out that the computer module in here, just like any computer, sometimes crashes. And what you need to do is unplug the power, wait 30 seconds, plug the power back in, and then everything started working fine. So that almost tripped me up, but in the end we got that done well. So I'm very happy with it, and hopefully you guys will be able to do a similar job yourself. And once again, cardiologist, I'd like to thank my cameraman. Mr. Cameraman?
Hi.
Say hi. Good. Thank you.